guys, it's Miss McLean. I'm going to be talking to y'all today about caring for families. This is going to be in chapter 10 in your book, and the PowerPoint is uploaded. Go ahead and get out your little letter cards that have the A, B, C, D. We've got a few quizzes in here we're going to talk about. And then, like always, I will be picking incessantly on my sweet clinical group. So we're going to be talking about families, and y'all know pediatrics is my background, so that's something that I love to talk about. And families is really, you can't take care of a pediatric patient without taking care of their family. But it goes to say that the same way for adults. Adults have families, they have people that take care of them and love them, so it's very important for us to remember to include them in our plan of care. So we've got about 30 slides to go over. It shouldn't take more than 30 minutes. We've got some good discussion, so y'all hang in and let me know. I've also got my students in here today. I'll turn the computer around so y'all can see them. Darius, the one guy in our class. I'm sure Carl and them don't know anything about that. So they're listening to me today. They're coloring. We're taking it back old school today. So we're talking about caring for families. Okay, guys, there are just some words we want to talk about. Family durability, family resiliency, and family diversity. Exactly what it sounds like. Durability is how does the system and the structure handle stress and support. It's a system of support and structure within a family that extends beyond the walls of the household. Family resilience, how do they cope with unexpected stressors? Are they a type A family where everything has to go exactly how they want it to go, and if not, they just jump off the ledge, or are they kind of fluid and flexible? And then family diversity, the uniqueness of each family unit. In today's society, we have lots of different types of families that we'll be talking about a little bit, so just keep that in the back of your mind. So the concept of family doesn't necessarily have to be blood related. Family is a group of people that identify as the same set of people that come together. Families represent more than just a set of individuals. It's more of a sum of the individuals in the family, okay? And families are definitely diverse these days. What is a family? A family is defined as biologically, legally, or as a social network with personally constructed ties and ideologies. And no two families are alike. We know that. We all know that. So current family trends, we have the nuclear family, which is mom, dad, and 2.5 kids in the white picket fence. We have an extended family that includes cousins, aunts, uncles. Depending on the culture and the ethnicity of your family, your extended family may be very involved or it may not be involved at all. You have single parent families. 50% of marriages end in divorce. So at some point in time, about half of the kids and the adults that we take care of are going to have been in a single parent family. We have a blended family, which is very, very common these days. It's mom and dad may have some kids that are biologically the same, but they may be from divorced families and then blend together and have step parents and step kids and all of that fun and exciting stuff. And then you have your alternative family, which has been really interesting to talk about and to interact with here in the last 5 years or so with families, again, not fitting that nuclear family definition. You have all kinds of different families. You have same-sex families. You have interracial families. You have families from all over the world. You have international adoption, which has white parents adopting black children and vice versa, or Asian kids, or the family as we know it 50 years ago no longer exists. Our idea of family is completely and totally different, and it looks different. Okay? So, again, family forms and current trends. People are marrying later. Women are delaying childbirth. Couples are having fewer children or none at all. Remarrying results in blended families. We've got the single parent families. More people are living alone. Adolescent pregnancy is an increasing concern. We have a lot of heterosexual couples that are family units now. America's getting older, which we know that, those baby boomers. And then many grandparents are raising grandchildren. So why are grandparents raising grandchildren? Okay. Adolescent pregnancy. So you cannot expect an adolescent to be prepared to be a parent. They're not cognitively or physically prepared to do that. So you have a lot of grandparents raising kids these days. Okay, here's our quick quiz. So go ahead and get your answer sheet out. You are caring for a patient. Visitors at the bedside include the patient's life partner, widowed father, brother, and niece. The nurse acknowledges that current trends in the American family include couples without children, more singles choosing to live alone, a very different look from 15 years ago, a mother, father, and more than one child. So go ahead and pick your answer and hold your card up for me. Using my telepathic abilities, I'm going to say you probably picked C. Let's see what the answer is. What? It doesn't say. Okay, the answer is C. Family doesn't look like it did 15 years ago. We just talked about that. Again, family forms and current trends. The changing economic status. Inadequate health insurance coverage is huge. That's why the Affordable Care Act was such a big deal. That's why Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security are so overloaded with people that need those services. There's an increasing number of children living below the poverty level as the economic trends and the financial stability of our nation tends to flux. We have more children whose parents don't have the resources to provide for them all that they need, so they do live below poverty level. Okay. Okay, we're having some technical difficulties. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, sorry about that. I love some Wi-Fi with 1,000 children on it. Okay, guys, we're going to finish talking about family forms and current trends. We talked about changing economic status and how it appears to be that the idea that the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer and the middle class is not really existent in today's society is very true, and you can see the utilization of resources such as the Red Cross, Salvation Army, those without insurance continues to increase even with the Affordable Care Act. Okay, and then homelessness. You would be amazed at how many families are actually homeless or who have been homeless in the past year. A lot of times parents will hide that from their children until they absolutely have to share that information with them. But it is a true problem. Specifically, in my role as a school teacher, there are homeless children at Germantown High School, and that is so very scary. Also, along with hunger, 1 in 5 kids shows up every day at school hungry because they didn't have anything to eat last night before they went to bed. Okay, and then domestic violence, again, it occurs all across social statuses. It doesn't matter if you drive a Lexus or if you drive a Pinto. You can become and your family become a victim of domestic violence. So it's really important to be aware of that and know what the signs are when you're doing your assessments with your families and you're sharing that environment with them. And then there's also long-term physical and emotional consequences. We all know that. We think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, that bottom is food, clothing, shelter. And then you move on up as things become better to self-actualization. And again, we talked about Erikson's stages of development earlier this week and about how if you don't, when you have those tests between trust and mistrust, role confusion versus shame and doubt, all of those things go into play when it comes to children and families and how that family structure functions. Okay. The impact of illness and injury. Y'all are all at least 22, 23, 20, 21, and then there's always Carl and Brenda down there for our older adult population that we can talk about, and we've all been experienced impact of illness and injury on the family. Acute illness, chronic illness, trauma, end-of-life care requires a lot of emotional energy. It requires a lot of financial resources. And it is trying. And as a nurse, you're at the bedside during those most trying times. And you have to help them process and move through those stages of grief, the denial, the realization that their life will never be the same. You were there helping them through that. So it's important to understand your role, particularly as a step-in therapist for most of the time, especially in those first initial moments of that stressor. Okay, approaches to family nursing. You always have to look at the developmental stage. We all know that we have adults that function at not the right developmental stage, and then we have adults who do, and we have children, and we have families that are very complicated and have lots of different outside influences and how they deal with stress. So we have to get a developmental picture of where they are. We have to look at their resources, their family life cycle, the McGoldrick and Carter family life cycle, how you start out as an unattached young adult, you get married, you have young kids, adolescents, young adults, then you don't have any kids because they left, hopefully, fingers crossed, and then you're in your later life and you have this circle of families and care. So it's important to know where they are in this cycle, as well as where they are in their developmental stage, so you can provide the most support and connect with the most appropriate resources. Okay. Attributes of a family. You have to know the structure. You know, who's in charge? Is it the mom, the dad, the grandparents? Is it matriarch family? Is it a patriarchal family? Who's in charge? Who makes the decisions? Who's the leader? Who's the caregiver? Who's the provider? Who you think is may not be who it really is. So you've got to really dive in and assess those family dynamics. And then you also have the function of what the family does. How does it function? Is there one person making decisions? Is it a group of people of making decisions? What role does the child play in the care that we're going to provide? There are so many different components of family systems that you have to look at in order to come up with the most reasonable and the most achievable plan of care. Okay. So again, going into this approach of family nursing, family and health, many factors influence health. Social setting, economic status, educational level. We have to look at class and ethnicity. We know that there are certain classes and ethnicities of people that are at predisposition for lack of resources, those that live in the Delta. African American families that live in the inner city or in the Delta. You have your immigrant families that have lots of issues based on communication. So you have to really look at that family history and that family health and know what resources do they have, what barriers are they going to have to overcome. You have to know what their beliefs and values and practices are that influence their health. You have to know what motivates them. Why are they cooking that way? Why are they doing that? Because it really does play a lot into what your plan of care is. You cannot expect a family that's living on $100 of food stamps with 6 people to go down to Whole Foods and get some organic vegetables, because that's not going to happen. Okay. Genetic factors, again, genes are familial. If mom has type 2 diabetes and hypertension, the daughter's probably going to have type 2 diabetes and hypertension. So when you come to educating the families, if you've got a mom, you can also make sure that the daughter's there and encourage her and bring her into the education component and what part of prevention we want to get them involved in. Because you don't just nurse the patient, you nurse the entire family. Okay. So, family as context, family as a patient, and family as a system. So the family as context revolves around health and development of the individual members. Family as a patient are the patterns and processes, and the family as a system deals with the family members and the family unit. Okay. Not real sure how this all plays into what they're wanting you to learn with this lecture, because I didn't really understand it. But it's important to know specifically the context of how the family relates to the situation, how the patient relates to the family, and then the family as a whole, how it works together. Okay, quick quiz. Let's get out those cards one more time. A patient comes from a close-knit family. The patient's family functions as context. You will need to evaluate. Okay, so context is the health and development of the individual family member. Okay, you will need to evaluate attainment of patient needs, family attainment of developmental tasks, individual family members caring about one another, and family satisfaction with its new level of functioning. Family development of individual members. Okay, let me check and see, make sure I get the right answer. Okay, the answer is going to be A, attainment of patient needs. Okay, the nursing process, we know that all starts with assessment. So we've talked about assessment. We're moving into planning. No, ADPI. Assessment, diagnosis, planning, implementation, and evaluation. So we're assessing the needs. Cultural aspects. What is their culture? Does it hinder or help their health care? Does it require certain dietary restrictions? Discharge planning. What resources do they have at home? Do they have a close-knit church family that can help support them? And then family-focused care. Again, you don't nurse just the patient. You nurse the entire family. It may just be the mom that has breast cancer, but it's the daughter that's worried about her. It's the husband that has to support her. It's the son that's worried. It's the grandmother and the grandfather of, the mom and dad of the patient that's stressed as well. You nurse everybody and you provide care for every member of the family. Nursing diagnosis. Identify actual and at-risk nursing diagnosis. This is so true. At risk for developmental delay. At risk for malnutrition. Whatever you come to find, get you a nursing diagnosis to associate with it. And then planning. You want to make sure that you communicate clearly. Family members need to clearly understand and agree to follow the plan. They've got to know that it's important that they not fry everything in the house, that they bake the fish, they don't fry the fish, that mom doesn't eat a whole piece of pie with dessert for dessert every night if she has diabetes. It's important to gather, to rally the troops, okay, because you've got to have one solid movement in order to really affect the outcomes and the morbidity of some of our patients. Okay, set goals and outcomes that are realistic, comparable with the family's developmental stage, and acceptable to the family members and their lifestyle. Okay, if you have a family of overweight individuals and you're wanting them to run 2 miles every day, that's not realistic and achievable. Okay, it's more like let's walk 30 minutes in the neighborhood 2 times a week. Okay, let's, instead of having sweet tea, have sweet tea with Splenda. Instead of Coke, let's see if we can get some Diet Coke. Those simple things you have to be able to know if your family's going to be able to adhere to those recommendations, because if you set really high, lofty goals and they're not ready for them, you're not going to meet them. Okay, collaborate with other disciplines. Again, we've talked at length about how nursing does not heal a patient. You've got to involve physical therapy, occupational therapy, nutrition, the physicians, respiratory therapy, psychology. They all play a role in getting our patients better. Okay, if you've got a family member that's had a stroke, you need to get PT and OT to come and assess their gait. Do they need ramps? Do they need handlebars, grab bars in the bathroom? Do they, need to make their home wheelchair accessible? Those types of things have got to be done before the patient's discharged in order to make that as smooth as possible. You've got to utilize those family community resources, to make sure that that family's ready and is going to be successful when you get home. Okay, family caregiving. This is very interesting. The routine provision of services and personal care and activities for a family member by spouses, siblings, friends, or parents. A lot of people don't have jazzy home health insurance that allows for a private sitter to come and sit for 16 out of 24 hours a day. A lot of the care for patients at home is provided for and provided to the patient by other family members. And that brings in a whole new concept of caregiver fatigue and all those different psychosocial components that come to providing care to a loved one. You have to find resources, provide personal care, monitor for complications or side effects And you provide instrumental activities for daily living and ongoing emotional support as a family caregiver. Okay? Health promotion behaviors, again, it's tied directly to the patient's developmental stage. Where are they? What are some realistic expectations we can set for them? Again, if you have a family that's overweight, running a half marathon next week is not going to be realistic. If you have a family that is, very health oriented and loves organic, and loves to bake and grill, then they're going to really love all those really great nutritional interventions that you want and all that exercise you want them to do. But if it's not part of their lifestyle now, it's going to be unrealistic. Okay. You also, it's real easy for us to talk about, I like to say, make fun of the fat kids because it's real easy to do as far as when it comes to home health and growth and development and nutrition. But you really want to find out what the strengths and the weaknesses are for the family. If they communicate well, that is awesome, and they're going to be successful. If they don't, they're going to have a little bit more to overcome. If they're an active family, that's great. If they're not, let's try to get on there. It's all of just assessing what's going to be best for the family involved, okay? What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses, okay? And then refer families to health promotion programs that meet their needs. There are a lot of resources out in the community as far as healthy cooking, continuity of care, senior groups that do a lot of stuff with senior adults to keep our older family members and patients engaged in the community. So you really have to dive in deep and look at those resources. Okay, so case study. This is going to be kind of interesting. I'm, again, going to pick on some of my clinical groups, so y'all just go ahead and be ready, okay? Bethany works with Michelle and Patrick. Whoops. Next one, quick quiz, okay? When completing the nursing data on a client to complete the admission and develop a plan of care, the nurse will do. We're going to test the family's unit's ability to cope. We're going to evaluate communication patterns, identify family unit form and attitudes, or gather health data from all family members. Okay, guesses? Get your cards out, guys. Okay, great. The answer is going to be C. We're going to identify the family unit form and its attitudes. That's the first basic thing. Who are the stakeholders in this patient's care? Okay, implementing family-centered care. Again, you have acute and chronic stages of illness. The same thing with family care. Acute care. We've all had those experiences where we've gotten that phone call that somebody we love was in a wreck, had a heart attack, died tragically. We've all had those experiences in our lives, and we're going to provide care to our patients in those exact moments of their life. So it's important that we are aware of how to cope with those situations. Okay, we need to be aware of the implications of early discharge from the hospital for patients and their families. We know that the longer that patients stay in the hospital, the more likely they are to get sicker. So it's important for us to mobilize and motivate those families to move forward. We have to think about restorative and continuing care. If those families need long-term care, we've got to make sure that that's all arranged before they leave. We want to maintain their functional abilities as best we can, keep them engaged in the community as best they can, and engage with the family as well. Okay, here we go. Here's our case study that we're looking for. Okay, Patrick and Michelle O'Connell have been married for 10 years. Patrick is 38 years old and works at the Department of Public Safety. Recently, he learned that he is in danger of being laid off in the next round of cuts. Patrick has borderline hypertension and admits his stress level is an 8 on a scale of 0 to 10. He enjoys watching TV and playing computer games. The family health insurance is through Patrick's job. Okay. Patrick's wife, Michelle, is 32 years old. She is employed part-time as a receptionist at a building supply company and attends nursing school. How do you work part-time and go to nursing school? Michelle and Patrick do not have any children. Michelle is the oldest daughter in her family and is the only one of the siblings to maintain routine contact with her 80-year-old grandmother, Louise. Okay? Michelle's parents are both deceased. Michelle is very worried about their financial problems and the health promotion of her grandmother. So they've got a lot on their plate. Okay? What are some current stressors for this family? Diamond, you want to give us your thoughts? Okay, guys, let's go back and look at this case study again. Some things that are going to be stressors for this family. For Patrick, he learned that he is in danger of being laid off. Okay, that's huge, huge, huge. Sorry, something else popped up on my screen. Okay, that's huge. Recently laid off, well, in danger of being laid off, because where does Patrick's health insurance come from? From his job. Okay, so if he loses his job, the family's not going to have health insurance, and we all know how detrimental that is in today's society. He has hypertension. He admits that he's stressed, and he doesn't seem very active. Okay. Now, Patrick's wife, she's 32. She works part-time, which is great, but she's in nursing school, and we all know how stressful that is. I'm not real sure how she's keeping it together. Michelle has a lot of responsibility with her family, and she's going to have to provide care for her grandmother, Lewis. Both of her parents are deceased, so again, she has a very strong role in the development of her family with her siblings. Okay. So, moving on with the case study. Okay, Michelle has two sisters. One lives 4 hours away by car, and the other lives 6 hours away. Her grandmother, Louise, has become more forgetful and less tolerant of physical activity because of severe heart disease. Okay, Michelle worries about what she will do about this because Louise lives 2 hours away. Louise needs support, and it is probable that she will need more support as time goes on. Okay, so there's that responsibility to care for her grandmother. Okay, what does a support system look like, Carl? Give us your thoughts. Who does Michelle have to support her? Okay, she's got her sisters who live far away and her husband, and that's about it. So she's really, really, really struggling as far as community support and resources. Okay. As her grandmother's health declines, Michelle feels that her grandmother should move in with her and Patrick. However, they would need to give away their pet dog because Louise has allergies and their home would require some renovations. I don't know if I could give up my dog for my grandmother. I don't know if I like her that much. Ooh, I'm just kidding. I love her. I'd put her in a real good home. Real good home. But I wouldn't give Jules away. Okay, so here comes your role as a student nurse. Bethany is 28. She's a nursing student assigned to care for Louise in her community health rotation. She sees Louise as living alone in a clean mobile home in a nice park. Although Louise receives Social Security and has Medicare, she cannot afford supplemental insurance. Okay. What do you anticipate the student nurse is thinking about this situation? Okay. Just that general picture. She's walked in. She's got a clean home. It's in a nice part of town, thankfully. It seems that Louise kind of has it together. But we're going to inquire some more and find out about her support system, her health issues. Her financial strain is severe. She's got Social Security and Medicare. You all know that fixed incomes are not fun to live off of. And that as she gets older, she's going to need some more resources. Okay. Bethany assesses Louise's health care demands and basic physiological needs. She analyzes the role strain on Michelle. She's also is aware of the impact of stress on Patrick's hypertension. She understands that Louise wants to stay in her home and Michelle wants Louise to do what will make her happiest. Bethany asks about extended family members and Michelle explains that she has two sisters who are willing to come and help care for Louise. Michelle's sisters plan on alternating visits every month to assist Patrick and Michelle. Okay. Bethany knows that families have their unique perspectives and characteristics. True story. Families have differences in values, beliefs, and philosophies. Very good assessment. As Bethany studies and reviews the literature, she learns that nurses need to have cultural competency and sensitivity when dealing with culturally diverse patients. Okay, moving on along with Louise's health. Recently, Louisa's health status has declined further, and she's needed more support and supervision with her medication administration with her activities. As a result, she needed to move in with Michelle and Patrick. Michelle's two sisters alternate monthly visits to give Michelle and Patrick a 3-day weekend free each month. Okay, who's going to have some Roll Giver Care Strain? Roll Giver Care Strain. Caregiver Roll Strain. Okay, after our time, this is me asking this. After our time in the nursing home, what do you feel some concerns for Lisa we should address? Kaylin, you want to give us your thoughts? Okay, guys, we're going to be really concerned about Louisa and her social assessment and her social involvement as well as her health because she keeps forgetting to take her medicine. Okay, so one evening a week, another family member comes to care for Louise for a few hours so that Michelle and Patrick can have an evening out. A registered nurse spends 1 hour a week with her. A member of their church takes her to the senior enrichment program once per week, and a clergy member visits once per week. Louisa sees the nurse practitioner every month and a physician every 4 months. Okay. Poor Michelle and Patrick. I am stressed just reading this case study. Now that Louisa has moved in with them, Michelle and Patrick find that they have little free time to spend with each other. Okay, what does that add to their relationship? Stress, you're exactly right. Because of the added responsibilities of caregiving, they are fatigued, are not eating as healthy as they should be, and arguing more. Stress tends to do that. They both worry about the grandmother, and Patrick's blood pressure is higher. We might need to get Patrick in to see a doctor. Okay, so what are some of the current stressors for this family? How might we potentially address those stressors? Ty and Mary, give us your thoughts. Okay, great job, girls. There are lots of stressors. Caregiver role strain, financial role strain. They've had to give away their dog. They're not getting a lot of time together. I'm sure Louisa feels like she's a burden. There's lots of different strain and stressors on this family. Some ways to fix that. We need to get her in with home health, get them coming more often, get the sisters to pick up the slack a little bit. And I would really encourage Patrick and Melissa to set aside some specific time each and every day to spend time together behind closed doors, away from the house, somewhere that gives them that time to connect as a family. Okay. With added help for Louisa, Michelle has more time to devote to her studies. She plans to complete her education, get a better job, and help secure a sound financial future with Patrick. Michelle's sisters are great resources, and the family care plan for Louisa is working well. However, the family is also in the process of investigating assisted living and nursing home facilities for Louisa as her health declines. Okay. When it comes to family stressors, what do you feel is the key to successfully addressing all the concerns from this situation? Priska, Brenda, and Lauren, give us some of your thoughts. Okay, from my perspective, it's really going to be communication. Communicating what's working well, what's not working well, what they need, when they don't have the resources they need, verbalizing that and making sure that they get connected with them in order to decrease that role strain, in order to keep Louisa as involved and cognitively engaged as possible. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. That's all I have for you today. This is kind of short and sweet and to the point. I hope you've enjoyed this time that we've had together talking about families. No fun games or anything planned today. I figured it's Friday. I'll probably want to go home a little bit early. But I hope y'all did great on your medication test, and I will see my group at Baptist on Saturday. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.